With 50% of Aboriginal populations at the age of 23, we are now seeing thousands become first in families and communities to enter tertiary education. This new generation of Aboriginal people will no longer be a burden on the state. Instead, we will become active contributors to the economy, paying taxes, repaying HECS tax and building Indigenous businesses. In many ways, the gap will begin to close for this generation as we see a shift from the low socio-economic working class to the middle class. And this generation must be seen as a positive return on strong investments and activisms of the past. So what will your parties do to end the cycle of poverty and begin to grow a strong Aboriginal middle class?
Start with Tanya.
Fantastic question, thank you very much. And one of the reasons we've seen such strong growth in tertiary attendance by Indigenous Australians is when we were last in government, we uncapped numbers, and I think from memory it was a 105% increase in the number of Indigenous students going to university. That's why we were so opposed to the government recapping student places at university. We will uncap them again. That means 200,000 more people get the chance to go to university over a decade. Going to university can close the gap in a generation. It's a fantastic thing to do. But it's not only university. We have to make sure TAFE is accessible, affordable, high quality. And it starts with parents as first educators, strong families, supporting strong families, 3- and 4-year-old preschool, attendance at early learning so that kids start school ready to learn, $14 billion extra investment in public schools under Labor. So from early childhood education throughout the educational life, we need to invest more strongly, make sure quality is higher. We also have a $174 million equity plan that would encourage universities to partner, and TAFEs to partner with schools to lift the expectation and the desire to go to university in communities where attendance rates are low.
That's a minute.
There is a huge disparity, particularly between city communities, regional, rural communities, so making sure that we give people across Australia the opportunity to go to university is important.
Todd, just before I pass this around, does the emergence of an Indigenous middle class you're talking about suggest there may be a difference in the way they vote?
Yeah, 100%.
Are you prepared to vote for the Liberal Party, the Party of Small Business?
Not this round. But it's you know, we're trying to shift from this deficit, damage-centred approach. And so we want parties to really think about, you know, the experiences of young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are finishing rates that we've never seen before. We're participating in the economy in ways that we've never seen in the past. And yes, it's all good and well to say that we want to have, you know, young kids going to school and finishing and supports in there. But what I think a lot of parties miss is the fact that when we graduate, we just kind of float around. So there's no supports that are in that place to really support us to continue into corporate businesses, into Business Australia, into not-for-profit. So we're kind of, you know, we're ready at that level to really go above and beyond rather than just get your kids to school.
Thanks, Todd. I'll throw that to Simon Birmingham, former Education Minister, it must be said, but you don't have his vote this time round.
But Todd, I want to thank you for the really positive way in which you framed that question. Far too often when we talk about Indigenous policy in Australia, it comes from a deficit perspective, and of course there's still huge disadvantage for us to address. But you're right to highlight the huge gains that are being made by individuals, by families in advancing themselves. And as Education Minister, I remember receiving the Closing the Gap report a couple of years ago and being, of course, overwhelmed by the challenge that still existed, but thrilled that the one target that was standing out as being on track was in terms of Year 12 completion rates amongst young Indigenous Australians, and that translates into the higher university exits. Now, in terms of policies that we've delivered and for the future, one of the policies that we're really proud of as a government relates to government procurement targets that have said that a certain proportion of government procurement needs to go to Indigenous businesses so that we actually grow a core within Australian business and industry of Indigenous-owned, Indigenous-run businesses. We're backing that up at this election in my now portfolio of tourism, where we've put $40 million aside to build more Indigenous tourism businesses around Australia. Because we know that many of the visitors to Australia want authentic, traditional experiences of culture, and of course we've got 60,000 years of culture to share in this country.